Oda, man, he is such a jokester. So, I've already talked about the Gorosei in this chapter, I've already talked about the cover story, but today, I want to talk about a new plot point that we just got with the full spoiler drop. So last week in One Piece, Vegapunk started broadcasting a message around the world. Vegapunk himself said that this message would shock a lot of people. So we come into this chapter, and it turns out we don't actually get to hear the message, which is fine, which is totally fine. But one thing that we learn about this message, though, is that Vegapunk set a 10-minute timer before the message actually starts playing. All right, this is what we're here to talk about, but because this is crazy, right? Like, surely I wasn't the only person who stopped dead in their tracks and said, "Are you kidding me, Vegapunk? 10 minutes?" This is something that happens time and time again. There's always some sort of countdown or timer or doomsday clock going on. You know, Whole Cake Island, we had the whole thing where Luffy told people that he would be ready at 12 o'clock. And then we had Wano, Onigashima was gonna fall. Fishman Island had Noah's Ark. At Punk Hazard, Caesar's lab was filling with gas and we had to get out of there. And then there's Dressrosa, where the entire country was being squeezed by Birdcage, and then Luffy needed 10 minutes to regain his stamina. Oda loves countdowns, man, so we should have known that Vegapunk's message was no exception. I think it's actually hilarious, though. Like, genuinely, I do think it's pretty funny. And now this does open up a lot of doors, because now the world government, the Gorosei, can potentially stop this message. Rob Lucci, depending on how the Zoro fight goes down, you know, like if Jinbei simply shows up and Rob Lucci's like, "Hey, I don't want to fight no more," Rob Lucci could theoretically turn off the message. I feel like this opens up a new can of worms that not a lot of people were expecting. And the rough part with this is that Saint Saturn thinks that the message is being broadcasted from the Labo phase. So with that in mind, they have a target goal. Come next chapter, the Gorosei are all going to be rushing up to the Labo phase to stop the broadcast, whereas the Straw Hats are trying to leave the island. You know, they don't have some ulterior plan where they're like, "Hey, we want to leave the island, but we also have to defend, you know, Vegapunk's broadcasting network." That's not really the case. Like, Frankie is already on the ship, Sanji is on his way to the giant ship, Brook and Lilith are flying off the coast, you know, Jinbei and Zoro are dealing with Lucci. Like, nobody's really there up on the Labo phase that has the mission of defending this broadcast. I mean, hey, Chopper, Usopp, and Nami don't even know what is going on with this message. It doesn't seem like Vegapunk has briefed anybody on what to do if he were to die. So personally, I'm not too sure what the play is here. Maybe this is a good way for the Straw Hats to escape. Maybe the Gorosei are like, "Hey, we really want to kill the Straw Hats, but this message is more important." So maybe this is how this fight gets staved off, because Luffy, as of right now, still can't hurt Saint Saturn. 4 other Gorosei members are going to pop up, and while I do think Luffy could probably take all of them on 1v1, a 1v5 is pretty insane, especially with Admiral Kizaru still lurking around here, right? The way I see it is that it's gonna be like whack-a-mole. You knock one Gorosei down, you knock Kizaru down, boom, another one pops up, and then while you're fighting them, Kizaru and Saint Saturn are regenerating, or, you know, healing or getting more stamina back. It's not an easy fight for Luffy alone. Yes, Dorian Bragi will be showing up, but Dorian Bragi and Luffy versus 5 Gorosei members and Admiral Kizaru. It's like, yo, I don't know how this is gonna go. The numbers and odds aren't exactly in our favor, but they could be in our favor if by Vegapunk putting this 10-minute timer on the message actually makes the Gorosei not focus on Luffy, not focus on the crew, and instead go up to the Labo phase, which is also still pretty rough, because as it stands right now, the Labo phase is still enclosed in a security dome. So it's gonna be hard for anybody to really get up there unless they use the space shuttle, or unless they're impervious to laser beams, which Kizaru is, of course, and Saint Saturn, I guess he could get hit by it and regenerate and be okay, but I'm not too sure about the other Gorosei members. There's so many unknown factors here, and right now, an idea I'm kind of playing with is, what if this is all a ruse? What if there is actually no way to stop the broadcast? Because let's be real, Vegapunk is the world's smartest man. Surely he wouldn't allow this message to be interrupted. Surely he knows what would happen if he put this 10-minute timer on the message. And also, one thing that I found kind of interesting is that Shaka took a part in this message, so it makes me wonder if York knew this could happen, and if so, I wonder why York didn't warn the Gorosei, like, hey guys, maybe you don't want to kill Vegapunk, or maybe, you know, you should disable this broadcast before you do it. I'm not too sure yet. I'm not too sure how York's involvement in this message actually looks, but since Shaka knew about the message, I'm assuming that York probably had some inkling as well. There's still a lot of unknowns until we get the actual chapter, but as it stands right now, things are looking pretty dang crazy. One thing that I think would be pretty cool is if this 10-minute timer was actually bait for the Gorosei. Like, imagine Saint Saturn, Jupiter, V Nasujudo, like all of the boys roll up on the satellite station, and Vegapunk like flips the camera on them and says, hey guys, these are your leaders. These are the demons ruling your world. I think it would also be kind of cool because I do think there could be some pretty good takeaways from that. Like, for example, let's play with the scenario that Vegapunk doesn't actually have a message and he flips the camera onto the Gorosei and he says, hey, look, I actually didn't have a message to tell you guys, but look at how hard the world government is trying to suppress this message. Look at the lengths the world government is willing to go to just to make sure this broadcast doesn't go through. I feel like that in and of itself would be a great message to send to the world. I think that'd be kind of like a gotcha moment, right? Like the most random comparison I can come up with right now is like How to Catch a Predator, right? You have the weirdo showing up to the house, and then all of a sudden you have the camera crew walking out, and they're like, hey, we got you in 4K. Maybe that's what's going to happen here, and I think that would make Vegapunk look pretty smart as well, right? Because there's no way this 10-minute timer is an actual thing. I refuse to believe it. I think another gotcha moment would be if the Gorosei all show up here, and then it turns out that the 10-minute timer was a joke, and that around the world it already has been broadcasted. I think that'd be kind of cool as well. I guess one thing that does work in favor with the whole theory that the Gorosei are going to be captured in 4K is that Vegapunk said to queue up your visual transponder snail, because it made me wonder how visuals would impact this message. Is Vegapunk going to be like a YouTuber and he's, you know, doing all the hand gestures and stuff? Or does Vegapunk have perhaps a video he wants to play from the Void Century? Maybe he has holograms to depict what's happening? I'm not too sure. So that's why I feel like there could be a little twist with this. Like, you know, capturing the Gorosei in 4K. Like, hey, demons, you know what I mean? But I'm not too sure, man. I'm not too sure. I would love to hear what theories you guys have about this 10-minute timer, how it's going to play out, whether or not you think the Straw Hats are going to protect the signal. Do you think Vegapunk has some mastermind plan behind this 10-minute timer? And also, I would love to hear your opinions on whether or not the Gorosei are going to be focused on fighting Luffy and his crew, or if they're going to say, hey, forget Luffy, we need to stop this message. Because let's be real, if Luffy escapes this island, that would be less detrimental to the world government than the entire world potentially knowing about the Ancient Kingdom. So yeah, let me know all your thoughts down below. I'll catch you guys next time. Signing out.